Welcome back to Conversations That Work. I am your host, Anita Sandoval, and this is episode number 11, How to Align Your Decisions and Behaviors with Your Values. In the last episode, we went over values. Therefore, in this episode, I will help you identify the values in ways that are consistent with your behaviors and decisions. How to develop routines and patterns within your behaviors, then place them in contact with their values. The association between different activities and your emotions with behaviors that are inclusive to your values. We will discuss emotional-based decisions versus value-based decisions. I will also give you a quick tip on how to problem solve with your values. So stay tuned because this episode is for you.
Tired of feeling misunderstood, frustrated, and emotionally disconnected when communicating with other people? This is Conversations That Work with Anita Sandoval, where you can learn how to maintain healthy conversations with the people who matter most. A podcast where you can gain confidence and get tips for having challenging day-to-day conversations that make you feel understood, validated, and heard. Here is your host, a licensed professional counselor specializing in communication skills, strategies, and techniques, Anita Sandoval. Let's start the conversation.
Okay, everyone. Because this episode is going to have so much information, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. Our values reflect what we find meaningful in life. There are what you care about deep down and what you consider to be important. Everybody's values are different, and they can change over time. I know mine have. They reflect how we want to engage with the world, with the people around us, and with ourselves. Now, how do goals come into play with values? Well, goals can be achieved, whereas values are more like directions that we want to head in. There is really no destination when it comes to values, but it will definitely be a roadmap to get you into the direction where you want to be to meet those goals. And think of goals as checkpoints to get you from point A to point B. And your values, making sure that you're heading in the right direction. Life is a journey, not a destination. So let's enjoy the moment. Let's begin with the quick tip. Problem solving with your values. You should already have your values in place. If you have not, go back to the previous episode. Step 1, define the problem or the issue. And if you made a mistake, let's define the mistake you made. Step 2, let's figure out where you are at within your negativity. There are two sides to every stick. When you pick up the stick, you don't just pick up one end. You're going to pick up both ends, the positive and the negative. You want to do a body scan. You want to identify, am I in a high negative momentum going 100 miles an hour in the negative direction? Where your thoughts are, I can't do this, I'm not capable enough to do this. I just failed, I'm a loser, and it just goes 100 miles an hour in that direction. Or are you in a low negative momentum? This is where you might say, oh my goodness, I made a mistake, but I have to figure out how to make sure it doesn't happen again. You want to make an assessment on the level of distress that you are at. If you are in a high negative momentum, That means your body is in fight, flight, freeze, please, and appease. And therefore, you cannot problem solve. The blood flowing is headed in the different directions. Your autonomic nervous system is not in problem solving mode. It is in survival mode. Therefore, the best thing you can do is take a time out, is desensitize. Use some self-calming strategies so you can put a break in the high negative momentum and start going down, decreasing into a low negative momentum. Once you rate your distress level and it is low, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, you are at a 4. Now you are ready to problem solve. And we move on to step number 3. Define what are your values. You should have an index paper, a post-it note, somewhere where your top 3 to 5 values are. Look at those values. Then we define those behaviors. What needs to happen for me to represent those values? What are the limits of what I can and cannot do with those values? What are my goals that encompass those values? So if you have already defined the problem, the mistake, or the issue, you have written it down, then you write down the values next to it, the behaviors that encompass that, the limits of what you're willing to do and not do, and what are your goals within those values. Now you're ready to write down the solutions for the problem according to your values. Therefore, you will not look for other people to give you solutions that might go against to what you believe in. It might result in a way that you did not want. And then you blame the other person for something that you really did not believe in. It was your choice to do so. You want to make sure those solutions are in accordance to your values, those behaviors, and then the non-negotiable limits. Limits where you will do, and then limits that you will not tolerate or allow.
Connect with Anita on Facebook. Facebook.com/conversationsthatwork.
Let's discuss emotional-based decisions versus value-based decisions. The characteristics of emotional-based decisions is where you focus on the feelings of pleasing others in order for you to feel positive. Your values are unclear, therefore, there is a lack of connection with your values. You feel a sense of disconnection. You are having an increase in unhelpful thinking stories or limiting beliefs of oneself, where you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not enough. You're not doing what is important to you. And you only see one perspective of yourself, which is what others say that you are. In contrast, there are the characteristics of value-based decisions. And this is where you are in the present moment. You're allowing the situation to be just as it is. You detach, you challenge that unhelpful thinking style and story of yourself because you have your values with you and you have your behaviors that are encompassing those values. So you challenge if anyone wants to say that contrary of who you are. You notice yourself as an observer. You just look at what other people are doing, but it does not define you Because you have your values, you believe in who you are. You remember and you clarify what is important to you with your values. Then you do what is important to you because you are aware that living by your values in the long term, instead of pleasing others, is what will bring you peace, relief, and happiness. When you know your personal core values and the order of priority, it is helpful in making difficult decisions. Different ways to know on whether you're making an emotional-based decision is by asking yourself some self-reflective questions, such as, how does emotion affect your life? This question is useful to encourage yourself to reflect upon the role of emotions within your life and then within your present challenges. These questions will encourage on how you can reflect within your values. What do I feel too much of? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it fear? What do I feel too little of? Is it peace, relief, happiness? What do my emotions get in the way of me doing? Does it inhibit of you wanting to do what is best for you within your values? What do my emotions lead me to do too much of? Do you tend to turn to food when you're feeling in a negative way? Do you tend to yell and scream? Or do you tend to just withdraw and isolate yourself, emotionally disconnect from people that matter the most to you? Where in your body do you notice these emotions most strongly? What matters to you does not have to go with how you are feeling. Your decisions with your values and your emotions don't necessarily have to align. You then ask yourself, what is important to me? What are my values? What is important to me about the way I live my life? What are my goals? What do I want to achieve?
Sign up for up-to-date information and resources at conversationsatwork.org.
So let's get to the strategy on how to align your behaviors with your values. What is a behavior? One way to know what behaviors are is by asking yourself, if I was living my life the way I truly wanted to, what would I be doing more of? What would I be doing if I was living in a way that was true to me? Taking away all the distraction and obstacles that are coming to you, what would I be doing if I was living in a way that was true to me? And what would I be doing more of? Step 1, monitor your activity. Pay close attention. Record what you do for the next week on a journal, on a piece of paper. Copy it on an activity diary, which I will provide for you. In this episode, you will have a workbook with everything that I am teaching you and all the worksheets you would need to align your behaviors with your values. Monitor your activity, record it on the activity diary. Carry the form with you or put it on your phone. Leave it somewhere obvious as a way to remind you. Some good places are beside your bed, or stick it to the front of the fridge, on a wall, staple it. As soon as possible after each event, write down what you did and how you felt on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being negative, 10 being positive. It is more difficult to remember how you felt a day later. So maybe in the morning, one activity, In the afternoon, one activity. In the evening, one activity. And no matter what, because I've had some people tell me, well, I do nothing. Well, if sitting down on a chair and watching the wall is nothing, you write that down. How did that feel on a scale of 0 to 10? Sitting down on the chair, staring at the wall. Step number 2, reflect with your activities and your values. Now it's time to look at your behaviors and patterns. How do these activities align with your values? You have to be honest with yourself. Write down what you're doing, even if you know it's not value aligned. This is how you will know your true self of what you are doing if you are making value-based behaviors or emotional-based behaviors. One way of thinking about values is like they are a compass. They're directions that we want to move. You go north, you head in the right directions. You go south, things go south and doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. You never reach a value, but it definitely guides the directions of your journey. And goals are more like destinations along the way. Moving on to step 3. Aligning with your values. How are values and behaviors correlated? Well, let's look at your values. For example, if I value support, things that would help me move towards my value, some behaviors, would be maybe asking my friend how they're doing. Because I do like to be supportive to my friends. Spending time with my children, playing a board game. Giving them my full attention, making sure I don't have my phone with me. Another one is being more compassionate with myself, putting less pressure on myself, and planning a treat for myself. Maybe some me time. These are behaviors that help me encompass the value of support. Things that move away from my value. Not responding to messages from my family or friends. Criticizing myself for not being good enough. Having a lot of self-defeating, unhelpful stories and going along with it instead of just observing it that it is not part of me. Binge watching Netflix instead of listening to my kids. See, those are behaviors that are against my value. Getting started with your behaviors. It is important to increase your level of activity, even if you don't feel like it to begin with. It is important to know the reason why you are doing it. Why this value? What is the reason behind it? When you know the reason behind it, you will then get inspired to want to do the behavior that encompasses the value. Your body is comfortable doing the emotional-based behavior. It is used to doing that. So therefore, it won't want to gravitate to the value-based behavior. It is something that is not known. It is something that is unfamiliar. And therefore, you will feel awkward. You will have increased self-doubt. You will have lack of confidence on whether you're doing it right or it's even going to give you the result. Don't focus on the result too much. Focus on the effort that you are doing. Remember, it is not a destination. It is the journey of you at least doing 1 or 2 value-based behaviors. And even if you did 1 or 2 and you ended up binge watching the Netflix, that's okay. I'm not saying binge watching Netflix is bad. If you have it within your values, then go for it. But you want to make sure that you prioritize your time that are with your values. Start to do the things that are important to you. And in time, you will start to feel better. If you write it down, use the worksheets, and you look at it, for those that are visual, you will see how you are aligning slowly into your values. What will make it successful is when you are consistent and committed over time, you will start seeing the benefits.
Conversations at Work with Anita Sandoval, making challenging conversations easy.
Let me give you some tips while you are working on the steps to implementing your behaviors with your values. Sometimes people find it difficult knowing which activities to start with. So here are some tips to help you make those decisions. Start small. To begin with, choose activities that are easily achievable. Try to create a daily routine. Try to involve other people to support you and to increase your sense of accountability. Do not let perfect be the enemy of good enough. It's more important to get started than it is to have the right activities. I always say when there's a baby learning how to walk and the baby falls down, we don't tell that baby, "How dare you fall down? You should already be walking. You already took 3 steps." The process of being successful in a habit, it's those moments where you fall down and you get back up and you are persistent and you are consistent. Schedule activities. Plan in advance where, when, and how you will do them. It will make it more likely that you will carry them out. That's why I provided you with the worksheets.
Conversations at Work with Anita Sandoval, making challenging conversations easy.
Tips for getting the most in beginning your behaviors with your values. Don't start too hard. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. This is why I love running marathons. I love to take my time and enjoy the moment. Your new level of activity has to be more than your fear of, "I don't know if I can do this." But it also has to be realistically achievable. Start small in a way that you feel comfortable, where your negative momentum won't be too high. And you know yourself better than anybody, so pay attention to that. What feels comfortable for you to do today? Break those activities down into smaller steps. It's okay. Let's say you had identified a value of becoming independent, but you're living with your parents and you're not qualified to drive. Well, some small steps of living independently might be making an online application for a driver's license, or maybe doing some budget on what you need to save to be able to move out into your own place. And reward yourself. Deliberately, always constant acknowledge when you have completed something, when you have made the effort to doing something. Congratulate yourself in making the effort to do it. Some people find it helpful to check off the activities while they are completed and then acknowledging it when they've had it done. But also acknowledge the effort that you took to even begin with it. So think of some ways to treat yourself. Even if you have completed half and you didn't complete everything, but the fact that you started and made the effort. Remind yourself why you are doing this. What is your reason for this value? One of my values that I've decided to put up in priority is my health. So I've decided to really focus on my value of health, but I also had to think of my why. What are my reasons for being healthy? And I can give you 3 reasons, my 3 girls. They're there for me and they love me and they look up to me. And I'm here to show them to be an example. And I want to be here as long as I can to be there for them. So they are my why, on why I choose to eat healthy, on why I choose to be consistent in working out, because I want to be there for them. So recently, my health was not a priority. It was down the list. But recently, I have moved it up in one of my top 5. Remind yourself your why and your reasons. Thoughts like I'll do it when I feel better are sneaky. And those are not really your whys. Remind yourself what is important for you to get active. What are your reasons? Even if you don't feel like it, you want to get inspired. You want your reason why to inspire you. And even though you have that negative momentum, you're still inspired to do it anyways and not wait for that motivation to kick in, because it might not. So remind yourself that inspiring yourself on the reason why works. Think of what inspires you to move forward. Don't expect to feel better straight away. It may take some time. Your body was used to a certain habit. So when you reteach a new habit, it will take some time to teach the body what is good for the body. You will get that sense of achievement in time. Just stick with it and the inspiration will grow. Look for friends and family to support your efforts. Not the results, but the efforts. If they know what you're doing and why, they are there to help and support you every step of the way. Let's move on. How to make a decision. We've discussed what value-based decisions and emotional-based decisions were. Step 1, wait a while, just a short while, before making a decision. Always say not right now, or I will think about it and wait a bit before making the decision. Another way of pausing the decision is, let me see how this fits within my values. Step 2, ask yourself, when making the decision, you pull out your values and you ask, does it align with what I believe in? Does it align with my goals? Does it align with who I am, what I want, and where I am going? Can I still be a good person and be true to my values? How would I feel if I didn't go along with what they wanted me to do? Is that something that I feel is important in my life? What would be the consequences if I chose to do or not do it? Is it something I find worthy in my life? These are some questions to verify if this decision that you want to say yes or no is a true value-based decision. Some of the effects, if you make emotional-based decisions, are guilt, shame, fear, and sadness. Some of the effects, if you make value-based decisions, short term, you might have some guilt, you might have some shame, some fear, maybe some sadness, because you were not going along with people pleasing. This is the body not being comfortable with making value-based decisions. You have the value-based decisions in front of you aligned with your behaviors. That will help you know, what is my why? What are my reasons? And then you reteach your body within time that this is what's best for you, because in the long term, you will find that peace and happiness. Any negative thoughts in making value-based decisions is due to programming, an expectation of society, an image, expectations of how others want you to be. And thoughts like, I am a bad person, or any other negative thoughts might creep in, but it is not you. it is because you don't want to do what they expect from you, and it is not aligned with your values. Now, emotional-based decisions, it is a fake yes and no. And questions to ask yourself to see if it is an emotional-based decision is, am I making this decision to make someone happy? Am I making this decision to fit into the expectations of society? Am I not wanting to be the bad person in someone else's point of view? Am I doing this to set an image? Am I doing this in the expectation that they would do that in return? If any of these questions were yes, it is an emotional-based decision. And in the short term, you might feel happy that you pleased them. But in the long term, you will have resentment, anger, depression, fear, anxiety, and shame for not being true to yourself. You have guilt towards yourself and anger towards the others for making that emotional decision. Just like in the quick tip, you need to be in a calm and rational mindset to make decisions. On a scale of 0 to 10, negative momentum of 4 and below. This is why I always say pause, especially if you are a people pleaser and appeaser. You want to wait and align with your values and behaviors before making the decision. Programming is just the negative expectations from others that you are choosing to identify with. And it's not who you are. It's people pleasing and appeasing. So when you carry the values with you, you're able to see your true self. Some of the top fears that people pleasers and appeasers have when making a value-based decision or making value-based behaviors that is different from their environment or their family circle, their inner circle, is fear of abandonment, rejection, humiliation, judgment, or failure. Those are valid fears. This is why it is important to know your reasons why you're doing this, your values aligned. And in my next episode, I will discuss strategies and techniques on how to overcome those top fears of abandonment and rejection. And I will leave you with this quote. Sometimes it's the smallest decisions that could change your life forever. By Carrie Russell. Until our next conversation, be well and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to Conversations at Work with Anita Sandoval. Know someone who needs help in having healthy conversations? Share this episode and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until our next conversation.